Hello, Hitless Gaming here, bringing you a long-awaited single ship way of fighting the Triglavians that reside on wormholes. Today, I'm going to teach you. We're going to go down the left. So I'm going to teach you how to locate a Triglavian wormhole, and then I'm going to teach you a composition for fighting it, and then I'm going to demonstrate a little bit of fighting it. I'm going to give a word of warning. What we are doing is not cheap. But with that word of warning away, a single account can clear 250 million ISK an hour sitting in one system. It's pretty disgusting how profitable it can be. More so, you can make more if you want to throw more ISK at this problem, throw more accounts at this problem. You can do a lot. There's a lot of stuff that you can do. But this is something that you've been waiting for a long time. Because I made the video like 8 months ago on how to locate them, and I got a lot of videos. Well, how do I fight them? This is going to be the video of how to fight them. This is high tier, high sec content. This is not new bro friendly at all. Even with this setup, it is still possible to lose your ship, and things can get hairy fast. Suicide gankers exist. This is a fun setup to fly because it's always exciting. You always get close calls, and it's you have to be engaged with it to survive. So without further ado, off we go. All right, this is going to be really super nerdy, but I wanted a relatively accurate representation on the ISK we earned, and the little farming section that we had in this video was, or is going to have in this video, was almost exactly 20 minutes long, and we made, we'll take this out and put that in the item hanger. We made roughly 112 million ISK. And if we go into my game logs, which I actually went and looked up to verify, I used 2 characters to do this: not Hateless Salvage, Well Buck or Bash Fired. And I explained why I do that way and then call it solo in the video. But you can potentially salvage almost as fast. If you don't have a salvage in tow, you probably won't make as much ISK. But we'll go ahead and go to my monitor. I know this is going to be super tiny chat in text, but we can see here I undocked at 31, notification undocking from Spaceline Patrol, and then we at 31 after, and then we docked back up roughly 2 minutes after finishing farming at this time stamp right here. Request to dock at Turnus 22 minutes later. So we did 112 million ISK in roughly 20 minutes. This can be further verified again on this character here. I undocked at 32 after with the salvager, and the salvager docked back up at 54 after. Both characters that were used, we have logs showing. We left grid at 53 after talking about loot for a second and saying thank you and all the stuff. We said thank you and left at about this time right here. I had a few more things to kill, and we cleared it up, but that is the time frame for the loot made, and I have the logs to prove it. And that's what we made, roughly 112 million ISK in 20 minutes. We can then go ahead and use a calculator really quick to multiply 112 by 3. Utilities calculator, 112 times 3. We would have an estimated earning of 338 million ISK an hour. This video will advertise and claim a 300 million ISK an hour amounts. However, if the value of the loot drops in the future because it gets farmed a lot, this title will no longer be a correct claim. I want to be completely transparent about why I'm claiming 300 plus million ISK an hour in the title, and this is why. Yeah. So first and foremost, you are going to have to locate one of these wormholes. This is a wormhole into Triglavian space, and they can exist in a lot of different places, including other wormholes, which is really exciting on that end of it. But with that being said, you have to find one of these, and once you find one of these, you have to clear it or kill everything on grid. We've already done that to this wormhole. Clearing what is on this wormhole is easier than fighting all the other stuff. So if you can fight the other stuff, clearing this should be no problem. The amount of DPS you need to clear this is, well, I mean, you just need to be able to break them. So about 500 to 600 DPS on your ship, and then to actually survive while you kill them, depending on how bad the spawns are, and you can bork one of these sites. You can accidentally put it to, it can get to a point if you let it rage. It can get to a point where you're going to need more tank, but as a rule of thumb, you're going to need about 1,000 DPS tank sustainable in order to clear this, depending on how quickly you clear them. I personally have the ability to clear them. I think it takes me about 15 minutes to clear one. Once you are with the setup that I'm going to show you. My fleets can clear them in a couple minutes, and my solo play where I multi-box clears them in about 5. So there's depends how long it takes to clear them. But the first step when you locate this wormhole is to kill all of the NPCs on the wormhole, if there are NPCs. If there's not NPCs, the system has been started already by somebody else, or maybe they're still farming in system. But once you clear all the NPCs on the wormhole, you're going to take a look at DScan, and there may or may not be additional Rasnaborg on DScan. And if there are additional Rasnaborg, you have to go clear them. And then you can wait anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes for that initial spawn to spawn. On a brand, if you stumbled across the wormhole or you went and found this wormhole, it is very likely it's not brand new. And that second fleet will already be in system, or that first group that's hanging out will already be in system. They always hang out on planets. I have a preference towards this system because they're always on planets. What you do is you descan the planets to locate where they're at. They'll always be on a planet. You can see there's none here. We'll go ahead and scan again. We have a group here on planet 1. So I'll just go ahead and show you guys. We'll warp within 100 on that. I am cloaked. This character is hated by Trig. So we need to stay cloaked up in the ship, as I don't want them to kill it. But you just descan the planet, and they'll be at the planet or sun. The only exception to this is if there's a Jove observatory in the system. They don't warp to the Jove observatory, but there can be an unidentified wormhole that appears on your overview. And when that unidentified wormhole is there, they can spawn on the unidentified wormhole, or they can go to the unidentified wormhole. I would highly advise against trying to play with Triglavians on the unidentified wormhole. You can go and salvage it, and they'll probably kill your salvager every now and then. I lost an Orca to it, and I lost the Noctis to it. I was really lucky not to lose golems. But what happens on the unidentified wormholes is Artemis comes out and fights Trig. And when there's no more Trig, Artemis fights you. On unidentified wormholes, the Autothesians will engage you on the... They won't engage you elsewhere in the system, but when you go to that unidentified wormhole, they get really protective. So it's advised to avoid those NPCs if you can. To locate systems where these wormholes are, there are 2 ways to do it. You can look at archived versions of Dotlan, pre-Potchvid. Locate a system that is now in Potchvid, and then these wormholes will spawn anywhere within 3 jumps of that system. The other way that you can locate wormholes is you can go to... you can go ahead and Google the Potchvid entry manual. And it was made by the Electus Matari site. I'd recommend downloading this as a PDF version if you're going to use it a lot. And these are all of the systems that went into Potchvid space. And you can pick a system and farm on a specific system. Or you can once you get into Potchvid, you can scan the wormhole on the Potchvid side and locate them inside out, which is probably the easiest way. So like if I want to go on the Ernichi wormhole, I'd hop into this wormhole, which is Senda, go fly to Ernichi, scan down the signature in Ernichi, pop out, and I know exactly where it's at. If also locating the Niarja hole, because there's like 20 different places it can be. That'd be the easiest way to initially locate it. So how this website works is there's a key, just kind of different systems types. So yellow is low-sec, red is null-sec, and then blue is high-sec. For example, this Attila hole can spawn in all these systems when it gets collapsed and it respawns. So to locate this hole, you're going to have to go and check all of these systems. Some systems are better than others, and that there are less possible choices. Like Agumon is all high sec, so it is possible to scan down the Agumon wormhole and locate exactly where it is, and then farm in that specific system. Archie's another relatively well-connected one. I will warn you, Archie does have people guarding it. They're entertaining people. I would recommend going and checking them out as to see how it's done, because they do farm it almost 24/7. They're almost always on that wormhole. Harva is another one that's really popular because it's low counts. Ichiora is less popular, again, because it's in 2 different regions, or yeah, I think that's 2 different regions, and it's hard to connect. Probably wouldn't do this one, but you can find this wormhole in any of these high-sec systems. It would be possible. This one has Tenuden, this is actually a unique wormhole, right? Because one of the possible connections is Tenuden, and Tenuden's already in Pachman, so you can have Pachman connecting to itself. I honestly don't know what happens in here. I'd actually be really excited to figure it out. The one that we farm in the fleets, in the public fleets, is the Senda hole, and that is because there are the least possible connections to Senda than any other one, and so it makes it really easy for us to locate the wormhole. And thus, it's also really close to Jita, meaning that we get to we get to invite people in the fleet really easy. There are downsides to it, like the higher traffic because of proximity to Jita. That's not always the best thing. And then yeah, so there's a bunch of wormholes that exist. You can find them by checking this. So for example, the Sekenda one can spawn on all this. One that I did farm a lot was, I'm trying to remember which one it was. It's the one with Old Man Star connected to it. But we started running our fleets with the one that connects to Old Man Star, which is Vale. This hole is pretty nice, but the possibility of Old Man Star is not so nice. But the back half of this cat and behind is a really nice place. Andal only has 4 planets, making it a really good spot whenever the wormhole ends up in there. So there's plenty of places to go. And locating the wormhole. Each of these wormholes can always be in one of these systems, and locating them, you can either take a filament into Pachman and scan them inside out to locate them if you're just casual. But if you're more intense and more dedicated, you can actually roll these wormholes into specific systems. There's a lot of RNG involved. There's a lot of risk with that. I may make a video in the future on that, as it's a skill and subset of doing things that's turned into somewhat of a trade secret, because I mean it's hard to roll a wormhole, but if you don't know what you're doing, you lose ships and it becomes chaotic. Anyways, back to my character here with the Triglavians. Now that I've explained how to find them, because they only appear on planets and stars and gates in the systems where the wormhole is. So first thing first, you have to locate the wormhole. That is first. They do warp around from time to time, so it is possible that you descan them, and as you just watch there, you can descan them, warp to the planet, and they're not there, and they're like, where do they go? This happens more often than I'd like to admit, but you warp to it, and then they moved well, you warp to it, and so you just have to go chase them down. They'll appear on another star or another planet in system. Alright, you've located your wormhole. You fought the Trig. You fought them on the first wave, where they initially spawned. You got a little ways to wait before they actually start spawning in the system. You need a ship. You need something that is combat capable, puts out a lot of DPS, has a lot of tank. Ship of choice is, in my personal opinion, if you're going to fly solo, the Golem is probably the best of the big 4, being all the Marauders, the Paladin, Kronos, Vargur, and Golem. They are all exceptionally good at this. They're well tailored for it. It seems to be what they are designed for, or the content seems to either be what they're designed for, or the content seems to be designed for them. Initially, when we started doing this, it was a group activity. We used 2 Nesters core to tank, and then we fleshed out when the Golems got, or when Marauders got buffed and got their double DPS, they became a viable option to do this. And so we learned how to fly Marauders for this, and it has been fantastic since. So without further ado, let's get into the fit. This is a Golem. and I hit Alt F on the wrong character. This is a torpedo build. We use rage torpedoes because all their resistances are explosive is their lowest resist, meaning explosive is going to hit the hardest. We use a NOS. We absolutely have to carry this because we do take cap pressure from them. They do cap E-War, and they also like to do other E-War. So even if we were cap stable, this would be highly advised. And then we have, of course, the Bastia module. You have 2 high slots. You can put a tractor beam and a salvager in here if you want to not have an alt follow you to salvage. And I'm not sure how fast the salvage is on just a Marauder, but you can also put in salvage drones and carry an MTU with tractor beam and salvager, or 2 tractor beams, the drones, and the MTU. Depending on how you want to do it. If you want to truly be solo, you need a salvaging mechanism, and carrying an MTU, dropping that, and then having a tractor and salvager is really helpful. Also, if you buddy up with a couple people, maybe one of them can be a dedicated salvager. That's a thing. We have a Gistum X-type extra large shield booster. This is by far the most expensive module on this ship. And the reason why we would require one of these is actually really simple. There is an alternative, and I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the alternative, but it's not as good for a really, really big reason, and I'm trying to bring it up here. So we have the Pitham X-type and the Gistum X-type extra large shield booster. They're both fantastic modules. I have both of them in the station. I've done testing with both of them. They're both great. I prefer the GIST for one really big reason. And if we go to the attributes tab here, the shield boost is higher for the Pith, right? The shield boost bonus is base of 924, whereas the GIST is a base of 739. However, the GIST is easier to fit, takes less CPU and power grid, and it is the activation cost is significantly less. So to activate this costs 284 gigajoules, whereas to activate this one costs 400. And there's a really important statistic that's not shown on these, and I really wish starts getting shown on Reppers. But Fonsui is the first one that ever pointed this out to me, and this is why we why medium boosters are so much better than large boosters. And if we're going to go to medium boosters, or from medium to extra large for abyssal running, you never do large because this stat's really poor on large shield boosters, regardless of the type you do. Anyways, a Pitham large shield booster heals you for 924 HP and costs 400 gigajoules to activate. So you get 2.31 HP per cap that you spend. Now, if you look at the fit and we simulate this and turn this off, we only have 40 EHP cap that we have to spend, 40 cap that we have to spend. We take this number and multiply it by this number, and that is our raw EHP per second that we can heal indefinitely. And this is very important in this context because we're going to be running our tank a lot, and we need to be able to sustain as much tank as possible to survive. Whereas this gets multiplied by siege and all that, but the 231 times 40, because we have 40, so we'll just multiply by 4 by 40. We end up with 92 EHP a second before ship bonuses and all that. The Gistum X-type extra large shield booster heals you for 739. So we all clear 739, and it costs 200, and I believe that's 204, not 284. So that is in fact a 0. We're going to divide by 204, and we end up with, instead of 2 point whatever it was, we end up with 3.6, which is significantly better. We multiply this again by 40, the amount of gigajoules we have on our fit per second. We end up with 144. That is almost 50% more sustained tank than it's literally almost 50% more sustained tank. And sorry, not sorry. Nika's making her daily appearance, trying to get attention. Do go check out my video from yesterday, or my last video posted before this one. Tell you guys the story of the cat, why we love her so much, and how we acquired a kitty. Anyways, so the additional HP that you get per gigajoule multiplies very quickly across all the 37% bonus for training Marauders to 5, the fact that we siege and that gets doubled. Like, this difference is big. And I know that the cost of the modules is insane right now because they're not being highly farmed. There is a trade-off for this, aside from the cost, and that is that the Pitham X-type has a much higher burst, meaning that when you get into a really hairy situation, the Pith has more burst tank, so you can, even though it's for a shorter time, you can deal with a lot more. If you're really concerned about being suicide ganked, a Pitham X-type in this build is absolutely insane. It will survive a lot of suicide gankers on top of the trig that you're fighting. However, it doesn't sustain well, and it's not as survivable long term. But this is the most expensive module on the ship by a large margin, and I believe it's worth the cost for sustained tank. But if you want something cheaper, the Pitham X-type is a good alternative. So we're going to go ahead and close these two and move on with the fit. We have a stasis grappler rather than a web of fire or a tracking computer. The reason we use a stasis grappler is it will slow the closer things down more, and it reaches out beyond 15, meaning we can grapple all of the cruisers, all the battleships, everything that is under, I believe, 39 or something like that. I can't remember what it is. We have 2 hardeners. These can be T2. I recently upgraded them to Pitham C-type for the additional resist, because the additional resists are nice. And then we have a Republic Fleet large cap battery to aid with our cap stability and our evil resistance. So when they nude us, we don't suffer as much. And then also it aids with our total amount of cap that we have, allowing us to get just a little bit more, if that makes sense. We have a NOS in the high slot. This gives us an additional 12 gigajoules a second, which is a big deal for our sustained tank. The additional 12 gigajoules a second means an additional, 30, 40 EHP sustained per second. We have a Republic Fleet target painter to aid in damage application. This increases the signature radius, decrease velocity, increase signature radius, better application. Win-win, right? And then lastly, we have a Pitham X-type shield boost amplifier. Again, these can be downgraded when you're newer at this, because there's one more mechanic to this that I'll explain. And or maybe I explained it already. I don't know. Depends on my editing. And then we have 3 Republic Fleet ballistics controls and a missile guidance enhancer. I found that the better application helps us more than actual raw DPS. And then we have a large capacitive control circuit, again, to help with the shield situation, and a large flare catalyst rig as well to help, again, with application. Again, application is a big deal. Even though we're only doing 2,700 DPS, where Golem can normally do like 3.5k, that application is really what is going to make the money. I do have a salvager in tow rather than fitting salvage onto the ship. So I do multi-box this. I know I say it's a solo activity, but having this to follow in tow while you're killing Triglavians, you can kind of manage this account a little bit, and you'll be all right. I like to have a small tractor beam, salvager, a sensor booster, a large micro jump drive. I prefer 1 expanded cargo hold and then the rest tank. And this is large salvage tackle. This will probably get killed every now and then, but it's not too big of an issue when it dies. You just replace it and carry on, as it's just an hour of your effort, and you got it back. And then inside, I like to carry a pack rat. I name mine Hateless. They die all the time because I'm bad and I leave them behind. So, yeah, I recently lost one. I lose a lot. Anyways, back to the cargo of the Golem. I forgot to mention this, but you always carry drugs in this activity. You want to be carrying 2 hardshell DB-Dose 9 and at least 2 strong blue boosters. You want to avoid taking this at all cost. But this is your emergency, oh shit, oh no, I'm gonna die. The reason this can be bad is it gives you 30% bonus But the penalty, you can get if you get the capacitor penalty with the bonus. Yes, your burst tank will go up, but your sustain tank will be unchanged if you take this bonus or this penalty and get this bonus. Your sustain tank ability doesn't change, and your burst tank will go up by the 30%. So it could save you, but then you could have the problem of capacitor. So if you do roll this, you immediately want to know if that capacitor got affected. The rest of these you can deal with. It's not a problem. Less shields, no biggie. Less turret, less explosion, no biggie. If the application goes down, no biggie. But losing this capacity is a big deal. And you want to be aware of it if you have to happen. If a suicide gank attempt happens, you immediately pop both before they start firing. And then overheat everything and ungroup your guns and get ready to fire back. That is your only defense. Again, suicide gank attempt, you lock them all up, get ready to fire. That's all you can do. You just hope and pray. This actually happens to be a profitable thing to kill. So you may become a target if you become open about this. The last thing that I want to talk about is the clone. I recommend high grades. I'm using mid grades, but I do have a backup. I have a group of these ready to go. I'm not going to get into it. And an Orca ready for command burst. So if I do get into problems, I do have that. Mid grades are about 800 million ISK, and high grades are about 2.5 billion. So I run mid grades just for a cost thing, and I tend to get away with it because I'm willing to take the pills. I'm willing to overheat things to maintain things. It's not a big deal. I have shield management, gives me additional EHP. This is mostly for travel. I couldn't find anything really useful in slot 7. Capacitor upgrades and the capacitor management helps with the sustained tank. And then the target navigation prediction and rapid launch help with DPS. So that's really all there is on the fitting. I suppose we just go for a demonstration. So I'm just going to go ahead and undock myself and my Noctis here. And we'll go ahead and show some combat. So the first thing we got to do is locate the Triglavians and turn on our modules and group our guns. So I'm going to group my guns here. We're going to get ready to use this. I like to have that on F2. I'm going to put that on to F5. Actually, no, we want these on F2. Manage the tank there. Put that on F4 because we will use that, and then F1, 2, and 3 for what we fire at. We're going to turn on our tank. Remember, we're not cap stable, so we can't just turn that on and forget it. We're going to go ahead and hit F9, descan, and locate our Triglavian. Looks like the first place I checked. It is also possible for it to be at the sun. So I'm going to find them there at the sun. We're going to go ahead and warp fleet within 0. That will take my Noctis with me. It'll go with me when I do that command, and we're going to brace ourselves for some combat. So I'm going to show you guys a grid and kind of explain a couple things while we're warping. There's one other thing that you want to keep in mind, and doing this will drop your Triglavian standings. I've been doing it a lot. When you first start this, they're pretty docile towards you. They don't get really aggressive, but as this bar goes across, they will do more damage. They will warp in more. The things will get more aggressive, and they will find a way to kill you if you don't bring something that can deal with the next step up. So what I find is a lot of people get into this. They start making some ISK. They're happy, hunky-dory with their ship, and then they get out there. One day, it escalates to a new scary spawn that they hadn't seen before, and they end up getting killed. First things first, we're going to go ahead and siege up. We've been watching D-Scan. We're going to open up D-Scan and watch for anything. But it's kind of the way this goes is that we are a sitting duck. If Suicide Ganker comes in, they can come in here before we even realize that they're in system. We're just going to go ahead and lock these guys up. And we're using rage torpedoes. I always grab a NOS on a Dracovic. The Dracovics provide good cap for us. And then we're just going to go ahead and load to Caldari Navy torpedoes, knock out the frigs, and then we may switch to Rage to knock out this guy. But this guy is close, so I'm going to immediately grapple him, target paint him, and we will go ahead and start firing. And it's pretty simple stuff. I mean, we just kind of sit here and, dunk them, and you survive. So what can happen, or is really common to happen, I believe this is a hot spotter group. This is actually not a hot spotter group, so they will have additional warp-ins. But if we just go ahead and start working on them, things will go pretty well. The fact that they're not shooting me is kind of peculiar, but it does happen. And we just go ahead and start working on them. We can tab to our alt to salvage. Probably want to drop that the pack rat out and go ahead and approach it. We're just gonna knock these guys out. We can't throw our salvage drones until they decide that they're going to shoot us. Otherwise, they could decide to shoot the salvage drones instead. Just a little wonky. And like I said, I've already pre-spawned the system. So the odds of them actually... the odds of this being the initial spawn is really low. If it's the initial spawn and the wormhole that you just cleared the site and you're here, it'll just be this spawn, and you just kind of go wait up at your dock up for a little while. And then once your dock up is complete, or once you're just sitting there, you sit there and hit descan. I dock up, I go play another game for like 15 minutes, come back, check it, rinse and repeat until they start spawning. And I promise you, they'll start spawning. It always does happen. So we're having a pretty good time here. They're not deciding to shoot us. This AI is wonky. It does weird things like that, or just decides not to shoot us. And in this case, that means that I just don't have to worry too much about things. So I'm just going to go ahead and multi-box the salvager here a little bit. Get a little bit of stuff. Go ahead and fire at this guy. I would love to show you guys escalations and how they kind of scale up. So hopefully we'll get a situation like that in the very near future. I could have deployed salvage drones, but I guess not. We have no warp-ins. We're going to go ahead and drop siege. Just got to wait for this to go away. I am currently salvaging this grid so that we'll be ready to go as soon as that siege cycle is over. The idea behind this is I don't want to spend any time waiting on gold or waiting on the salvage. Go ahead and grab that. That wasn't a crazy amount of loot, but you know, it's something. I'll scoop up our pack rat. Marauder is out of siege now, so we're going to go ahead and descan our next location. We're going to verify that they're in system by descanning everything, or verify that they're in scan range. They are. We're going to go ahead and locate the next group. Descan there, descan here. Looks like there's a group there. We're going to go ahead and warp the fleet within 0. As this is a brawling setup, so we always want to be on 0. In kiting setups, you always want to be at a distance. And it just depends on if you're sniping or fighting them. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and warp on down. Going to hit Control R, reload our guns. Or I should say our launchers, because we're using a golem, right? We got a fancy group here. There's an individual Leshak. We're afraid of Leshaks. They do the most damage of these NPCs. And this time they are reacting to our presence. We're going to knock out this Leshak first, and we'll lock everything else up. And yeah, we're going to need a tank. We're going to go ahead and go for the Leshak first. Our ammo, rage ammo, does reach the Leshaks when we're siege. We got like 45-kilometer range. So we can use rage on them if we want. Again, Leshaks are primary. If there are any... we want to nos off something. It will give us a large advantage. We're going to go ahead and kill these guys. We're going to go ahead and wrap up our shields. We have an extra large shield booster. We do want to, while we are tanking, make sure that our tank is in a good spot. I'm going to go ahead and drop my stuff there. We don't want to leave this on any more than we need to, as more stuff will come, and we're going to need all the capacitor we have as more stuff shows up. So and go ahead and lock up that battleship, as the battleship's the biggest threat. We're killing frigs. We're going to go ahead and pulse our repper here. There's our Drekovic. It happens to be ghosting, so I'm probably going to kill that thing first. Normally, I'm not too mad at Drekovics, but in this case I am. And we're just going to kind of maintain our tank and do our best to survive. We have a Leshak here. We have smaller targets there. I would have nosed off that Drek had it been not ghosting, but ghosting does disrupt my damage ability. And this is where burst tank is nice, but sustain tank is also a really important stat, and cap management is key here. I'm going to go ahead and go for him. And I'm nosing off of this guy, so he's my nos buddy. I'm looking to see if we have any more Drex, but we have a lot of small things. This guy's doing most of the DPS. We definitely want to make sure that we clear out Leshak's first, and then we would want to search for anything that's ghosting, and that's a high priority. Again, cap management, super key here. That burst tank is a huge luxury. And the fact that we can have an efficient cap and a really high burst on shields is why I have a large preference towards shield tanks on this. Armor fits have really good sustain tank, but they don't have as much burst unless you use a dual rep build. I always recommend a dual rep build and never cheap on your tanking module. It's something that will smack you in the face. If you decide to go cheap on your tank module, you can get in a lot of trouble really quick. And as you guys can see, we're still here on this grid. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and throw some salvage drones out. Actually, no, I'm not, because my cargo's full of ammo. But I'm just going to kind of multi-box and pay attention to both. My salvager here, I'm going to pull in for the Rex as we do this. Web, grapple, shoot. Web, grapple, shoot. We'll just go ahead and clear them out. The amount of ISK that can be made doing this is entirely based on salvage. So if you get a large amount of salvage, what can happen, you get large amounts of salvage, and the value of the salvage does change. I'm actually going to change my NOS over to this guy and that guy. Dracovics do a lot of damage, but they also provide good NOS. So having good NOS is really helpful. So just kind of up to you. Do you want to kill it or do you want to have NOS? And it's situationally dependent. I'm trying to be a good example and always have my NOS for true on. As it will provide me with more cap, and they just kind of escalate, and we keep on fighting them, and it's quite fun, but it can get hairy. So if you don't pay attention to things, the damage actually spools up. So the longer an individual NPC sits here, the more damage it will have. Are there friendlies on grid? This guy has damage on him. Maybe I shot him. So there's another Drekovic. I don't like killing Drekovics as they provide good cap. But as things sit on grid for a long time, they spool up and do additional damage. So if you've been nosing off, say, a Drekovic for a while, you might want to kill it and switch over to this one. As this guy's probably spooled up all the way. It takes him about 1.5 minutes to spool up. So I probably want to go ahead and turn my nos off this guy. Go ahead and kill the renewing as it renews the good guys. As like, renews them. I don't know if you want to call the Trig good guys. But we just go ahead and knock them out. We'll go ahead and web, target paint this, and we'll knock him out. Go ahead and turn our repper back on. Again, we don't want to over rep. As you can see, our cap is dropping slowly because we're managing our cap really well here. So we're just going to go ahead and kind of go here. And what I'm trying to get at is cycling out the old NPCs when you're nosing them out and kind of tagging your NPCs and making sure that you don't let things live on grid for a really long time ensures that they don't spool up a lot of damage. One thing that can and will happen is you'll sit here and you'll get focused on frigates, kill all the frigates, you'll kill all the cruisers, and then there'll be less shacks. And then you'll, if you didn't kill the shacks, they spool that damage and you'll do a lot of damage. So we don't want to sit here and take a lot of damage from Leshaks if we can avoid it. I don't like stacked Leshaks because they've almost killed me in a lot of circumstances in the past. And I've kind of grown a distaste towards them, or a preference to kill other things first. And other people may not like having a lot of cruisers because they had a bad experience with cruisers. But it's really important to, like I said, cycle through your targets, kill the oldest ones first because they're the ones doing the most damage. And that's a new Drekovic. So we're starting to get a nice stack of Drekovics, and they're probably starting to hurt us a bit, and my DPS meter's not reading correctly. But we are taking quite a bit of damage in. And this is a very well-developed fit. It can deal with a lot of things going wrong. So we're just going to kind of do our best to not die. and continue knocking these in. So even with our resistance profile, as we showed you guys earlier, the resistance profile is 67, 80, 83, 84. Only the things named liminal will do EM damage. So we're not even taking EM damage. So we have like 80-ish resist average. So we're taking 1/5. This is easily 1,000 to 1,500 DPS that we're taking in right now. And this is a relatively calm situation. The worst thing that can happen, and I really wish that the worst thing that could happen just happened, because it's close to it. We got an individual Leshak, but 3 Leshaks can spawn on you twice in a row. And when that happens, you're suddenly taking in, 4,000 or 5,000 DPS. And you have to deal with that kind of emergency situation. And the answer is to kill the Leshaks as quickly as you can. I'm being bad about it right now, as I'm not killing the Leshak right away. But the range that Leshak gets away from me does not affect how much damage I do to it, as I'm a torpedo boat. If I was in a Kronos or a Paladin or a Vargur, that Leshak would have been primaried instantaneously upon landing. I would have dropped whatever I was firing at and shot at the Leshak. We're going to go ahead and turn our Nos Theft back on. That's the newest one. We are going to want to kill these 2. Again, Leshak showed up. We killed it. I'm just trying to keep the frigate count low as well. And we're just trying to be responsible about what is currently on grid and not get into too much trouble. These grids can last anywhere from an hour and a half all the way down to 10-15 minutes. And disengaging is a difficult task, as we have to drop siege and line out. So you can kill all the anchoring, you can kill all the high DPS targets, drop siege and leave, or you can have some friends come and help you, whichever you prefer to do. There's another Leshak there. You actually are being treated very nicely by these spawns right now. We're probably farming at peak efficiency right now, as far as a golem goes. All right, we can go ahead and stop firing there. I'm going to go ahead and kill this old Drekavik. Our shields are reaching roughly 50%. We're going to go ahead and pop those back up a little bit. And this looks calm. It looks really calm, because this is a calm situation. We're not getting the triple Leshak spawns or anything like that. There was recently for a couple days, we had up to 5 spawning at a time. And we care about Leshak count. 1, because they have the best loot, and 2, because they do the most damage. So as you can see, if we get like 5 or 6 Leshaks on grid, the damage would spike, and then we could generate a need to quickly generate a need to take a pill should our tank break what we're sustaining. Our sustainability on overheat is 844 or 944, but not indefinitely. So this graph here, the DPS graph, is giving me a lot of information about where I'm at on the sustain tank. We can calculate our sustain tank. We know that we generate 40 gigajoules per second. We can show info on this. We would take the activation cost, utilities, calculator, 186 gigajoules, or the HP boost bonus, 3777, and then divide it by 183. Divide by 183. And then we would take this number and multiply it by 40, because that's how many gigajoules we get. We can sustain indefinitely 825. So this ship is actually really close to cap stable, and it may be overbuilt for this situation. However, I would advise against going for full cap stability, as the burst that you lose is pretty bad. And we have 944 burst, so we have an additional like 120 HP per second on burst. So our sustain tank is really high in this. And then of course we can overheat modules to get more out of it. That's Leshak. We don't like Leshaks. Go ahead and clear it out. I'm generating a lot of wrecks here. So while I'm fighting this, I'm kind of multi-boxing this. I'm not multi-boxing it well, but the goal is that once we are done with this grid on this golem, that we will be able to leave, because we're not waiting on salvage. Salvage drones can be useful for that, to that end. I'll go ahead and throw these 5 out. And I'm not sure how much room I have in the golem for salvage. We're going to go ahead and cycle through targets again. So yeah, that's basically how you fight Trig. This brig could last quite a while. If you like this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe below. Make sure you tell me your experience with fighting Triglavians in the comments. Let me know what you think. I know this is a fairly high-end setup. Income can vary anywhere from 200 million ISK an hour all the way up to 300 million ISK an hour, depending on our luck with Triglavian escalations and all that. And yeah, whatever I ended up putting in the title, I hope it remains accurate long enough. Make sure you guys fly fun, enjoy your time in EVE Online, and continue building people up. And I will see you guys in the next one.